Greetings, virtual universe. This is Zach, and welcome to my poetry blog. In a few minutes, I'm going to go downstairs and into the Castro to Harvey Milk's old camera shop to a potluck/picnic/protest of the HRC. It is a sister protest of the big one that's happening in New York tonight because the HRC has somehow randomly decided that Goldman Sachs needs an award from HRC for their human rights donations, which at a time of the 99% and the financial crisis and all of the global crimes against humanity caused by the fiscal elite, it's so disgusting that the gay lobbying elite have decided to clearly show that once again they're not actually in it for most of queers. They never have been, they're never gonna be. They're just a bunch of lawyers, lobbyists, protecting their paychecks. And we want so many more things from our gay leadership. We want so many more things from our leadership in general. And I keep watching as national politics continues to demonize me and my friends and continues to sap at my emotional strength, just peripherally, just continuous bombardment by the dominant culture of all the ways in which I am hated and that my life is a political hot button issue. And I'm over it. I'm exhausted from having to live my life in opposition. I'm exhausted by having to continually voice my rights and continually fight for my rights, and even living in a town that's liberal and progressive, to constantly be on guard and having to assert our power and authority as queers. And it is exhausting. And last week they banned a bunch of books in Tucson, and one of them, of course, was Paulo Freire's A Pedagogy of the Oppressed. That's exactly what all this is about. It's I'm tired of living under my oppression pedagogy. Too bad a lot of kids aren't going to get to read that book. So I'm going to read an original poem today, because it's sort of what I'm ranting about. I wrote it for a couple workshops I led a couple of years ago about sacred roles that queer people take in society, and that in cultures that respect and enjoy queerness as part of the diversity of the people, that queer children are identified as youth and taught special things and treated certain ways and given kindness and respect, so that as they grow up, their entire adult psychology is not stunted or limited by the bounds of oppression they experienced in their youth. So this is called When You Were Born. When you were born, we knew you were special. We didn't have to consult the stars or scry the streams, though we certainly could have, to know that you, our sweet child, you, were a soon-to-be celebrated newborn baby faggot. Your mother had hoped for a two-spirit child. The wise women said you were coming, 1 in 10, and after several sons, they said. The medicine men could hardly wait to teach you the secret ceremonies and sacred songs. Indigo children, the third genders, you see, have a very important social role. Without the walks between, the world simply wouldn't work. The first time we knew, for sure knew, not just wished, you were 4, dancing around in your mother's nightgown pretending to be Cher. And your father wept, tears of joy and pride. His son, his beautiful son, was a soon-to-be celebrated tranny faggot witch. That night he set to work weaving a cloak for you to wear while you danced the medicine cycles of your people. He made your cape so bright and glamorous it took 100 moons. He put on so many sequins, he would joke to his friends that he would have to grow up to be a big queen just to lift it. As word spread of the newest queerdo kid, all of the neighbors came to offer your gifts. So many songs to be learned and stories to hear, dream work and dance steps and divination training. The doorways of your perception were of interest to everyone. They all had something they wanted to offer you, some piece of the people for you to pass along. Your aunties took you hunting deep in the woods for your first kill. Your uncles taught you carving in the covens of the kitchen. Grandpa taught you knitting while on a fishing trip. The only difference between seaworthy and stockings is the size of the needle and the weight of the cord. The secret, he says, is not to dip your project in the creek while you paddle. Grandma usually guarded her tools, but let you play with scrap wood and hammers. Gradually, as you grew, she granted you access to the skill saw and the planer. Power, in nature and tools, must be respected in its own terms, she said, but gods and governments must only be engaged on the terms you define. Your mother taught you meditation and walked you through the forest, giving you the magical profile of the various plants and animals. Your father, already an accomplished seamstress, rose to every design challenge throughout your various drag phases. The old folk gave you tchotchkes and herbs, talismans, and a variety of woo-woo whatnots, each with their own legend and life cycle. You were given this knowledge to hold for everyone, for your people, as if it was your own. I'm going to stop there. It goes on for a whole long piece. I think it's important that we continue to push federally. I think it's important that we engage government. But I also think that the most important battle for queer liberation has to be a hearts and minds battle, and that every time the queer leadership tries to downplay our weirdness factor, our specialness factor, our odd artistic factors, and all of the strange ways in which we tweak culture and critique culture, that they are selling the entire movement out in one of the most disturbing ways, is that our specialness is our sacredness, and that if the mainstream culture is truly to have us be part of them and to truly accept the gifts that we have to offer and the joys that we could be bringing into their lives, then they're going to have to love us as we are, in our weird dresses with our stupid songs and our crazy voices and our gender-bending speech. And I believe that the culture is ready for us, and I believe that it's time for HRC and the gay leadership to catch up. One of my favorite 60s people is Bernadine Dorn. I find her to be highly glamorous. She was one of the leaders of the Weather Underground, and she had a phrase that she liked to end her press conferences with, which was, "White people, it's time to dig or get dug." And I just sort of feel like it's time to dig or get dug. And in terms of government leadership from queer people, it's time for those of us who are weird and those of us who are special and those of us who don't fit into their mold of being beautiful and rich and privileged and clean and normalized and married. It's time for us to speak up. It's time for our voices to be a part of this dialogue. Thank you all for watching.